Welcome to K-Drama School. I'm your host, Grace Jung, and class is now in session. I'm not in my studio today. It is too much of a headache for me to go into my studio. I want to ask my K-Drama School listeners and fans a very personal and important question. So if you guys could please indulge me, I'd appreciate it. I know that I haven't been talking too much about my own personal journey as much in my monologues. And I also know that my monologues have been a little bit inconsistent as of late. But I've been doing this deliberately because I'm not sure if any of my listeners care to hear about my personal life. It's an awkward question to ask, but it's almost like I'm asking, do you want to hear more about my life and myself? But that is what I'm asking. I know that a lot of people come to this podcast mainly to hear me talk about Korean dramas and analyze them. So, like when I'm editing, I also try to trim down like a lot of my personal stuff and focus more on the analysis. But if I could get your feedback on that, it would help me a lot. So, the question is like, are my personal updates a part of your reason for listening to my podcast? And if so, what are the aspects that I share with you that resonate with you or that you end up remembering most? I'm asking these questions because I'm working on a couple of new projects at the moment, and your feedback to these questions would be invaluable and very, very helpful. So please get back to me on that. You could email me at kdramaschool@gmail.com. And I'm still really struggling with this question of like whether or not people care to listen to me or not. Like, do they care to hear me? Do my thoughts and opinions matter? Do my do the I don't know, like these quote unquote significant moments in my life, are they worthy of sharing? Like these are genuine questions that I have that I struggle with on a constant basis. So yeah, some feedback on that would be great. So please email me again at kdramaschool@gmail.com. Today, I'm going to be discussing the show Matrimonial Chaos. This is a 2018 Korean drama that was originally a Japanese drama, and then KBS adapted it into their own show starring Cha Tae-hyun, Bae-duna, Yi-el, and Son Seok-gu. I found this show because I recently finished my Liberation Notes. I believe a couple weeks ago is when I finished it, and I've been in love with Son Seok-gu ever since. I am like in love with that man, genuinely. And I wanted to watch more shows with him in it, and that's when I came across Matrimonial Chaos, which I knew about back in 2018. Somebody had mentioned it to me, and I was like, wow, Chateon and Peduna, that's a really weird and awkward coupling. But I was traveling a lot that year, so I couldn't watch a lot of Korean TV shows, so this was a nice opportunity for me to catch up. Chateon is a classic Korean actor. He's not really known for too many Korean dramas, although he's done a few. He's done like producers, and he even directed a Korean drama actually. But Chateon is really known more for being a film actor, and he's perhaps the most well known for the film My Sassy Girl, which came out in 2001, which he co-starred in with Chun Ji-hyun. My Sassy Girl is one of those Korean movies that pretty much all Korean millennials know about, and it's a major part of my generation's cultural upbringing. And if you mention this movie to a Korean, they're gonna know what it is. And if they don't know what it is, then don't trust any Korean restaurant recommendations that that person makes, because that person is not a real Korean person. Okay, that's a scam. That's a scam. That's a con artist. All right. Cha Tae-hyun is a very gifted comedic actor. I rewatched My Sassy Girl the other day, actually, with Chun Ji-hyun. Some of you know her as Gianna Chun, but Chun Ji-hyun, she plays Lady Ashin in the Kingdom prequel film. She's also in Chirisan, She's also very famous for the TV show My Love from Another Star. And I don't think I covered that show yet, but I will soon. Peduna is a very, very familiar face to Americans and Koreans. She collaborates very frequently with the Wachowskis, right? And she is also in that sci-fi drama The Silent Sea. She was also in the Bong Joon-ho movie The Host. She was also in the Park Chan-wook movie Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, which is the only Park Chan-wook movie that I actually kind of like. And Peduna is a remarkable actress. She's very, very versatile, and she's been in show business forever. She has such control and presence when she's performing, and I love her to death. I really enjoyed watching Peduna play this character Hiru in this show Matrimonial Chaos. She seems very flaky and stupid, but there is this immense vulnerability and pureness to her character that I really adore. And I also enjoyed watching her character arc on this show. So I thought Peduna's character was the most likable in Matrimonial Chaos. We also have the actress Yi El, or Lee El. She is very recognizable in Korean dramas. She's uh, one of the sisters in My Liberation Notes, right? And she is also that woman who dressed in red in Goblin. She was playing that grandma, and she was playing that lady who was in red in Goblin. She was also in the film by Na Hong Jin called Yellow Sea, and I personally did not like Yel's character in this show. She seemed way too passive, very weak, just all around. You know, I don't know. It was a bit frustrating to watch her on this show at times. Swon Suk-gu plays this eccentric cheater type in Matrimonial Chaos. He's a professor, but also an artist. He's a creative. He's a weirdo, and he lies and cheats uh, to his wife, like constantly. That's his character. So he's embodying anarchy in this TV show, and it's really interesting to watch him play this uh, kind of a detestable base character, right? Who is presenting himself as something that's different, like more sophisticated and free, right? But he's actually um, a traumatized person who's never faced his feelings, right? But I really love Swon Suk-gu a lot. I love that actor. He's so interesting, and uh, you know what? It's a dream to work with him someday. I'm working on a feature film that I want to write and direct, that I plan on writing and directing, and I would like for him to play a role in that film. That's on my bucket list. So yeah, Swonsak will come at me. He's very fluent in English. I believe it's because he spent some time in the United States. He went to school in Chicago where he majored in filmmaking. Anyway, he's all around a very interesting actor, and I am looking forward to working with him in the future. The actress who plays the grandmother in this Korean drama is a very, very special woman. Her name is Moon Suk, and she is an actress from the 1970s, originally starring in shows made by TBC. And she also starred in several movies in the 1970s. She was very briefly married to the filmmaker Lee Man-hee for like less than a year before he died in 1975 at the age of 43. Lee Man-hee is also the father to a very famous Korean actress named Lee Hae-young, who is perhaps most recognized for playing Jun's mother in the show I'm Sorry, I Love You, and I believe she is his daughter from Imani's first marriage. But back to Moon-suk, she gave up acting as her career right after her husband's death, and she did not return to the silver screen and small screen until like 2015 when she was in the film The Beauty Inside. You also see Moon-suk in playing the landlord in the show Hello My 20s, and she is now more and more found in TV shows and movies. But there was this huge gap, like 40-year gap, where she didn't do any TV or film acting at all. Moon-suk and Imani's final film collaboration was Road to Sampo, and Iman-hee passed away as the film was on the heels of completion. But the public and the press really gave Moon-suk a hard time. I believe they were blaming her for having an affair. They were blaming her for not being attentive to her husband's health. Um, so she just like left the country and moved to the United States to escape the Korean film industry, probably for good. That was probably her determination to leave it for good. She studied painting in the United States and then she got remarried. But then she ended it after 15 years. And by the end of that marriage, she was really in shambles. She was dealing with a great deal of depression and panic disorder and anxiety. So she got deep into yoga and meditation while living in Santa Fe. And she returned to acting 40 years later because some Korean actress encouraged her to, go back to her first love. So in some ways, Moonsuk's life is a very typical actress's life. I mean, it's almost surprising that she's not from LA originally. Like she's like really having that LA actress hero's journey. But think about it. She's like, in her early 20s, she married a director twice her age. And then she experienced this deep trauma and betrayal from her home country's industry, where she was receiving awards and accolades, but they were calling her a man eater by the end, right? And you have to remember that the patriarchal culture in Korea blames women for the death of their husbands when they become a widow. So it's a very unsympathetic and sort of a mean way to treat a woman who's just lost her husband, right? And then she goes back to school in the US, meets another man, gets married, rediscovers herself, and then goes through this mental and emotional healing as a divorcee, and gets into therapy. And then through that process, she ends up returning to her original love, which is acting, right? So while I call this a typical actress's journey, I also call it the hero's journey in more of the macro sense. And all of us go through some kind of hero's journey in our lifetime. It's just a matter of recognizing it. You're all in it. You're all currently in the hero's journey. One big realization I came to very recently when I was talking to a friend over the phone is that my first internship that I was ever given was a rare internship in that it was paid. It was a paid internship, and it was paid at a theater production company that produced live stand up comedy shows. And in that show, one of my comedy heroes of all time, Jessica Curson, was on that show. But despite this opportunity that was handed to me on a silver platter, I kept craning my neck in totally different directions, right? Because I had my eyes set on filmmaking. I remember even when I was interning at that theater company, I would like look at UCLA's MFA program for filmmaking. And I remember looking at it, and I remember thinking about like costs and things like that. I just remember fantasizing about that when I was younger. And yeah, working at that production company. But today, um, like, over a decade and a half later, I am doing both of these things now. It took me a long time to come to terms with my career more peacefully and confidently. But our first love, when it comes to a career choice, never leaves our side. It never leaves our hearts. It never leaves our minds. It's always with us. I mean, it's the reason why we chose to come into being, right? And unless we give that satisfaction to ourselves, unless we satisfy that for us in this lifetime, we're gonna live in an unhappy state, and that will attract unhappy people who will fill your minds with their fear talk, right? That it's impractical, that it's impossible, that you're not good enough, right? But taking the time to figure out how to quiet those voices and focusing our attention to our original voice, the one that tells us exactly who and what we are, that's the big part of our hero's journey. So I really loved Moonsuk's character on this show. It has a lot of meaning for me as a viewer, and her own life's history really informs her character and her performance in Matrimonial Chaos. Today's guest is Natasha Mercado. She is a Los Angeles based comedian, actress, clown, and she is currently in her own one woman show, a solo show called Tree, which is playing at the Hollywood Fringe. And I want everybody in Los Angeles to go and see this show. It is such an amazing show. I processed some big things while watching it. She also has a little bit of like audience participation, but it's not scary. Like I was initially scared and reluctant, but once I got through it, I was like, I'm so glad that I got through it. It was like this big awakening for me. And when I was talking to Natasha, like we got into all different kinds of things, like spirituality, like creativity, deep in it, man, deep into it. And it was such an amazing conversation. I am so grateful that I got to talk to Natasha about these things, and I'm so grateful that I got to see her show. So let's talk to Natasha Mercado.
Wow, I love your hat.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
We have like matching hair right now.
I know. I noticed that at your play. I was like, wow, like her pink is all gone and she's just blonde now and I'm blonde.
Yeah. I've never dyed my hair in my life. So,
I know you told me that.
yeah.
Well, I've dyed my hair a lot when I was younger, but this is my first time going blonde,
It
so
looks great.
see, we're matching.
It looks
Yeah,
really
yeah.
good.
More
Yeah.
of that. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm doing
Yeah.
good. Yeah. I was just like catching up on some more fringe stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
Is your run over or do you have more shows coming out?
no, I have more.
Okay.
I've only done 2 of the 5.
Oh
So I have
wow.
3 more.
Oh
Yeah.
wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And the
Ready.
next one is sold out already, which is great. Yeah. So I was just like answering some people that had some questions for me, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
How are you
Mm-hmm.
doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah, woke up kind of early today. I needed
It's
to get my
nice.
toilet fixed and it got fixed and sending some
Good.
emails, doing my thing.
Yeah.
I loved your show, by the way. I loved it so much.
Thank you.
Because I saw like a partial ideation of it last year in the fall,
Hmm.
in the Cold as Fuck show that Kristen Lundberg and I were co-producing, and I was just like, "What is this? This is yeah." when you were
Thanks.
drawing the face like on the board, and
Yeah.
I was like, "This is really great," and um I think like when I was watching the show, there were like parts about it that made me feel really like emotional at times. Um, like in the beginning, like it's like very sweet when you show up with the little music box interior, and you're just kind of talking about how human beings make beautiful things and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's so true.
Yeah. I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like
found
taking
that
time to recognize that. Yeah. Yeah. Where did you find that?
I found it at the dog park. Just that
Mm-hmm.
interior of the music box on the
Mm-hmm.
table, just
Mm-hmm.
there. And like that piece of the show in particular came from Deanna, my director, asking me like, "Oh, what's your like favorite thing right now? Like what's something you want to show me?"
Oh, okay.
And I was keeping that music box on my desk like right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was like, "It's this music box."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What do you like about that music box?" And so that's basically like word for word what I said to her
Yeah.
like in that moment last year,
Yeah.
months
Yeah.
ago. And like
Yeah.
I cry every time I think of this damn music box
It's
because I
so
love it.
emotional. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
And
it's
just
yeah.
something about found objects, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And like going to Joshua Tree and like I found the sun hat that I was wearing and someone at the grocery store being like, "Oh, it was meant for you," you
Uh-huh.
know? And
Yeah.
how comforting that is. Of
Yeah.
like, yeah, I found it and I kept it and it
Yeah.
is meant for me, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we call it a found object, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I found this, it was meant for me. It's like
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Even the way you found that music box, like at a dog park, you said it was on a picnic table.
It was just on the picnic table, right in the
On a
middle of
pic
the table.
on a picnic table. There's something very clown about that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I love the dog park. That is my favorite place in the world
Mm-hmm.
because you don't have to like to talk to people, you don't ever have to find out their name and
Yeah.
they're always just talking about their pet and they
Yeah.
love their pet so much, and like
Yeah.
there's never a dull moment when you're talking about something that you love.
That is so true.
And people are at their most beautiful when they're just, yeah, he's a mix, we found
Yeah.
him.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. That is such a good point. People are the most beautiful when they're talking about the thing that they love.
yeah,
And yeah, like they as you say, they will always love their pet because it's their pet, right?
yeah, yeah.
That is so nice.
And it's just like, that release of introducing themselves. Like, I never am like, oh, I'm Natasha and this is my dog Rudy. It's like, no, he's Rudy. He's the star of the show, like
Yeah,
right now. Like,
right.
doesn't matter who I am.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, this is their time. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is so nice. Oh my God, you're saying
Yeah.
so many profound things right now.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
no, like when I showed up at that show, like that day actually, it was like I had gone through like a hero's journey almost, just in
Really?
that day because I had just gotten back from New York. I was in New York for a few days and I was still kind of like physically tired, like when you go on a
Hmm.
trip, you're tired. So I
Yeah.
went to get a massage right before your show.
Oh
But
my goodness.
yeah, but before that I was going through some like emotional turmoil. Like last year, you and I talked about this. Like we did the Artist's Way workbook.
Yeah.
Last year, as a product of my Artist's Way journey, I had written two books. One is a nonfiction book, and another is a novel. And the nonfiction book, I have more of like a commercial goal for it,
Hmm.
and I had been contacting agents, and the process is very difficult, right? But that morning, I got a particularly harsh response from an agent. Like, not like harsh as in he wasn't trying to be a dick, but he was a little too frank,
Yeah.
in a slightly insensitive way. And he wasn't saying anything wrong. It was just hitting me where it hurts because probably because I should pay attention to that. If anything,
Yeah.
that probably is something I should work on. So it was a bit too I was a it was a slightly insensitive response to a sensitive part of my where I'm at. So I was having a rough morning and there was like a lot of emotion and crying, but at the same time, like a friend of mine had just reached out that same around that same time with like a really encouraging thing. Like she didn't know what I was going through. She just said it like, "Oh, like this is something an artist said. He said draw what you know." And I found it very encouraging. And she has a children's book coming out, like her second book coming out this year, and so like, she's sort of somebody that like I'm I'm kind of looking towards as a mentor almost in this
Yeah.
arena. And so I was just telling her like, oh, I'm going through a rough patch right now with the agents, and she was sort of reaffirming me saying like, it's really hard, but don't give up is what she said. And so I was like, okay, I was processing that. And then I had therapy. And then my therapist was like, well, if these agents are saying similar things and there's a pattern and they keep saying your book is too academic, then maybe what they're saying is they want to hear more about you. Like
Oh,
you're leaving
yeah.
yourself out. And that was true. I was too scared to reveal myself and I was hiding behind this facade of academia. And I was like, okay, you know, I have to learn how to do that, which is a vulnerable, scary thing to do, right? As you know.
Yes.
And then I got the massage and I go to your thing and then I see our, colleagues from the show that we did together, the writers, right? They were all there. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, hi, hi, hi. And then we
Yeah.
we go into your show and then I loved your interactivity with the audiences, like giving them parts like the brook and the squirrels and the birds. I loved all of that. And then you were kind of like assigning tasks to audiences. And then um I this is just me, like since childhood, whenever I went to these like live theater things and they would start dragging people on stage, that terrified me. That was
Yeah.
that was a nightmare. I would be like, no way. Like I would be so angry because I was afraid, of stage fear, like fear of humiliation, fear of loss of
Yeah.
control, like
Mhm.
shyness. So that's such a fear I have from childhood. And then you walked up to me and you're like, you're You
You're the only person truly brought on stage. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
so reluctant, and I was
Yeah.
like, and you like made me grab your stick. That helped actually. You giving me the
Good.
stick to pull me, that helped. I was like, okay, let me just go with it. I was like,
Yeah.
I'm so scared. This is so, and it is vulnerable, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have a lot of experience being on stage as a stand-up, but stand-ups know their act. They know what
Yeah.
they're gonna get into. They also know how to do crowd work. They kind of have control of the room, but this is different. I'm an audience member. I have no idea what you're leading me into. Um,
Yeah.
and you want to play. You want to play pretend. You want to play pretend, make a fire, play
Mhm.
pretend, killing coyotes, play pretend, make me make the fire now, and
Yeah.
it was fucking embarrassing. Like
Oh,
doing it
yeah.
right,
Yeah.
not because there's anything inherently wrong with that, because like
Yeah.
I said, after your show I told you that one of my favorite parts about it was you making these pretend noises, like when you catch the mouse and you like go like like pretend to eat it and pretend to gut. I was like, that's what we did as children when we were kids, and we would play with our neighbors or our friends out in the street or at home playing house, or we would make those noises. We would pretend that there's soup and you got to taste it, or pretend that there's tea and pour it. And there was nothing
Yeah.
there, but we would play pretend. And I was like, oh, she is like capturing that essence in such a pure fashion right now, and she's forcing me to tap into that without like making me lose my self consciousness right now, making
Mm.
me do that. And that process, as like scary as it was and as fun as it was helping me process something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it. So that's what I meant in the
Thank
beginning when I
you.
said I was processing something, but it was
Yeah, thank
fun.
you. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, all of that is so poignant about like the clown archetype in general, this
Mm,
question of what's so scary about being seen
yeah.
and what's so bad if we look stupid,
Right.
what's like at stake. And I
Mm,
think once we face that, we realize, oh, yeah, I am inherently stupid or I will inherently fail. And it doesn't matter. And it like drags us further into our own absurdity where, like, yeah, we can make fart noises and make a fire and like
mm-hmm.
it's just joyful. That's
Yeah.
all that's on the other side of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you for trusting me. I know
Yeah.
that it's so scary.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah. And
It
then
was
like I
good.
told you, my
Yeah.
friend's mother-in-law said that was like her favorite part when you got on stage. Actually, a couple people were like, "Oh, it was awesome to see Grace kind of relax into it and have fun." So, you made me
Yeah.
look good too,
Yeah,
So thank
yeah.
you so much.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to hear that. Yeah, I guess they sensed an energy shift
Yeah.
in me once I got up there as well. Because I was like resisting. Part of me was resisting. The ego was resisting it, right? The ego was like, "This is scary. You got to protect yourself. You gotta, da da da." But I was like, "No, no, no. Like, I'm not the star. She's the star. All I gotta do is like go with it and react to whatever she gives me, you know." So I was
Yeah.
like trying to do that as much as possible. And then once I started once I got into that rhythm, I was able to relax into it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think the audience sensed that energy shift. And yeah, you're right. Like quite a few people came up to me too and they were like, "Oh, good job." I was like, "Good job to me." This is her show. What are you talking about?
Yeah,
But,
yeah. But
but
because they
yeah.
see themselves in you.
Right.
They're like, "Oh my god, what if that was me?" Like you are them in in that moment.
It's like a point. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just this mirror of like, "Oh my god, oh my god." And so every reaction you have, like you are that conduit of the audience being like, "Fuck, okay, I guess I'll make this now with her, this tree person. What the hell am I doing?" Yeah. And
Oh,
that's what's so like
yeah.
cathartic and beautiful about the connection.
Mhm. It is.
Oh, and someone once told me like a really long time ago when I started clown, not a really long
Yeah.
time ago,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the last 4 years.
Yeah.
They were like, you don't get to choose why your clown is funny.
Oh,
And in that way, it's like, yeah, I have to surrender to this idea of not having control, you know, or
yeah.
examining this idea of control. We never have it. Even when we think we have it, we don't. The universe is chaos in that way. Like anything could have happened. So, yeah, might as well just like swim with the current.
And trust.
Yeah.
That is so profound. Wait, what was it again? You don't get to choose why your clown is funny?
Yeah.
That is so profound. And it synchronizes with something I was told that morning before I went to your show. So like I was like, there was a part of me that needed to get out, which was anger. And like,
Mhm.
you know, I struggle with this, and I think a lot of women struggle with this. We're afraid of our anger,
Yeah.
and we don't want to give it space because we think it's an incorrect emotion, right?
Yeah.
And I deal with that a lot. But it needed space that day, so I
Yeah.
was kind of letting it out in therapy, and then once I did, I was relaxed. I wasn't angry anymore. And then she said to me, "We're lucky that not everything goes according to our plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, because we always get what we need and what we want. It's just not according to our exact precise plan. And that is actually something to be grateful for, because in comparison to how the universe works, we suck. Like,
Yeah.
our little plans are very petty and
Yeah.
small and short-sighted and small compared to how the cosmic picture works. And it aligns with what you're saying about this clown thing. We don't get to choose why our clown is funny. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, it's so empowering in that way of like, oh, it's going to work out better than I could ever even imagine it. And like
Yeah, yeah,
this
yeah.
process too of Tree, like I knew I wanted to do a solo show, but I had no idea it would turn into this
Really?
type of production. I mean, you know, you have a hunch. You're like, I hope it does this. But did I know what like the plot was going to be? Did I know how it?
Sure.
No, they were all like devised in the moment over a few months, like 4 months, you know, of lots of crying, lots of
Uh-huh.
like
Uh-huh.
journaling,
Yeah.
lots of
Uh-huh.
moments of like, okay, okay, it's coming together and being like, oh no, should I actually do this? Is this worth
Mm-hmm.
it?
The
You know?
self-doubt. The
Yeah.
self-doubt.
But it's just amazing. Like I would have never imagined that I would have a solo show called Tree where I'm in a tree costume.
See, how did you come to treat the character or your identity? How did that come about?
Yeah, I bought a big kids tree costume
Uh-huh.
online
Yeah.
for like a one-off bit that I did in 2019. And so I just
Okay.
had this like very silly, very simple
Mm-hmm.
tree tunic
Okay.
essentially.
Got it.
And then the Bobcat wildfire happened in 2020. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if you remember in
Mm-hmm.
October.
Mm-hmm.
And the sky was like orange for a
Mm.
week and it just
Yeah.
smelled like a campfire. It was
Mm-hmm.
really, really scary
Yeah.
and really sad because we were in
Mm-hmm.
quarantine and like the world is burning. Like,
Yeah.
and I just thought of this tree costume again that made me feel so fabulous and dorky.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to make something. So I made a short film about a tree who had been living as a human, who had been passing as human, right?
Okay.
Like they would get coffee and drive around and go to the pet store and all that kind of stuff. But then they heard that the trees were burning.
Yeah.
And so they went to go help the trees, and the trees were like, fuck off. And then that was the end.
I love that. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I had like this thing that I made, and I was just like editing it on iMovie, like, this is a thing. And then did the artist's way.
Mm-hmm.
And then through that, I connected just these pieces of like, I've always wanted to do a solo show. I made this tree thing. I think this is something. And I reached out to Deanna, who's someone who I admire so much, had heard only amazing things from people that I respect. And I was like, would you potentially want to direct me through this and like help me
Mm-hmm.
devise this?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, luckily she was like, yes. So
Amazing.
then through like combining like then she would ask me things like, what am I passionate about? And like it was this question of yeah, what do I truly love most in the world? I think that was like the first thing she asked me in our first rehearsal. I just
Wow.
started crying and was like,
Yeah.
I love people, but
Oh.
people can hurt you
Yeah.
really badly. And there's just a lot of sadness there. Like what you're talking about, this anger, I have a lot of sadness that I feel sometimes shame about. And I've
Yeah.
worked through it, you know, I'm working on it. And those parts of us that are so tender, those are usually the parts that need the most love, you know, and
Oh
need the
my
most
God. Yeah.
attention.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
But a lot of
yeah,
times people avoid it.
because it's hard. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
hold space for your messy parts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
And luckily, Deanna was always so grounded in that way of like, okay, so how do we bring this back to your artistic process of the play? When I'm like
Yeah.
swimming in like, what am I doing? Why do people hurt other people? And just getting it down on the damn page. And
Yeah.
so I would improvise different pieces like on any given day,
Yeah.
based on whatever I was honestly like feeling that day and
Mm-hmm.
thinking about humanity. And then I would
Mm-hmm.
transcribe all of them. And
Yeah.
then I mashed all of that together into a script. Of
Yeah.
course, lots of rearranging happened and
Sure.
tinkering and figuring out how does this make sense to this.
Yeah.
But Deanna was always like, we want to keep you like a pig just sloshing around in the mud, you know, just having a blast the whole time and all of
A
this.
happy pig.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's like what my show, you're watching me being a little happy pig.
Oh, that's so
I'm glad that
cute.
translates.
It's
Yeah.
so cute. And you're so cute in that costume too. Like, cause you got the
Like,
big roots as the feet, which is like
mhm.
clown feet, right? Clown shoes, like a lot of them that
Yeah.
big feet is like a thing. You got these giant root tree feet, and like when you were doing the countdown of the show and you would like do these jerk moments and like the your feet would shift, I it was so physically hilarious. And I was surprised that more people were not. I felt like I was the only one laughing at that, but I was like, this is so funny. Like her little movement, her jerks are so fucking funny. I was dying. Every time you did a countdown, I was like, yes, my favorite part. So good. There's something very like endearing about the costume too, you know, because it's like goofy, you know, you got this thing and the branches are kind of slanted, and then you got these giant feet, you know? It's like there's a goofiness to it. And oh, this was something that you said was not intentional, but the puns.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, what were they?
They were the name of the game show. So, Would You Rather?
Mm-hmm.
I did not think of. And then one of the other writers mentioned the last song, Everywhere, is by Michelle Branch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. You know, and that was my favorite song in the fifth grade. Like, I would play that over and
Such
over
a
again. And
good
so,
song. It's an amazing
yeah, to like
song.
think it came in a pun way to the show is insane. You
So
know,
so
just me
you didn't realize that until Brie mentioned it in that moment?
literally until that moment. Yeah.
Oh, and then when and you were like, "Oh, and the would you rather that wasn't and I looked at it, I was like, "Can you shut up? Like there is no way that that is not intentional."
No, but it's just like, you know, we have these things orbiting around us.
That's the cosmic
And
hilarity. That's the
yeah,
that's the you don't get to choose, you know,
y-
why your clown is funny. That's an example of that.
yeah. No, I had no idea.
Fucking
I'm
amazing.
I know, that's so cool. Yeah. It's like divination in that way. Like,
It
no,
is.
I had no freaking idea.
That's they have these like theories about like God and universe and shit like that, you know, but like our inner being, right, is our subconscious, and our subconscious is connected to the divine source, right? And that's what was
Yeah.
happening. That was leading you, not your consciousness, but your divine, your inner being was leading you to that hilarious pun, right?
Yeah. It's truly that. Yeah, my higher self, all credit to that, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I think God, like this God force,
Yeah.
it's nature, you know? It
Uh-huh.
truly is nature.
Yeah.
We are an expression of nature. And I feel like we are this God force's expression of the question why. We're like a little flower that blooms, and just humans, they have consciousness and they go, why? And then they pass away. And then another one comes up and goes, why? And then they pass away. You know? That's
Yeah.
all we've ever done. We've
Yeah.
always just been like, why?
Uh-huh.
And then I think in that same way, like, you know, this expression of, so then why do humans hurt each other and why do humans hurt the earth? It's like, it's also an expression of that God force, because
It
that
is.
is a possibility in this chaos, in this universe,
It is. It
you
is.
know,
And
to
when
be self-inflicting wounds.
exactly. And when we ask that question why, it means we have a consciousness to ask that. And that consciousness also allows us to rationalize the choices that we make. Because we ask why all the time. It's like you hurt somebody, you weren't thinking twice about it. But once they say, why did you do that? You're like, oh, you need a reason. And you start
Yeah.
talking, you start saying things like
Yeah.
the I'm a number one mom, right? That's
Yeah.
why. That's why. Because I have a son. That's why. Because I want to give him
Yeah.
a good time. That's why. Right. And,
Yeah.
you know, and I love what you're saying, because we forget that we as human beings, we are nature too, right?
We are a
Like
part of that pattern.
part of
Everything,
the
all
earth.
our clothing is every pattern you can observe in nature already
Yeah. Yeah.
outside.
Yeah. So then, like maybe it's a personal question and maybe you don't even have to answer, but like, why is it important to say you're not a tree and that you are a human?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm not a tree, I'm a human. I mean, that's also a trick, you know? It's like, I am you and you are me, and I am a tree and I'm not a tree.
I see. Okay.
Like,
Yeah. No longer hiding behind the facade of something that you're not and just bearing it all.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then like in the end, it's like, so is the tree real or is the tree not real? And is the human dying or is the tree dying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's always that.
Mm,
For me, that,
yeah.
yeah, I had an acting teacher who encouraged us to, as part of our process,
Yeah. Yeah.
sometimes look at people in everyday life,
Uh-huh.
and as they're talking, just think like, oh, that's me. And
Huh.
like how easy it is to have so much more compassion for them. If you're like, oh, that's me, I do that too.
Right.
Oh, that's me, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's just so much more peaceful.
It is. To
Yeah.
project with love rather than a contrast or resistance.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. Fuck
S-
yeah.
Fuck yeah. So okay, you trained in clowning. We talked about that a little bit uh when we were filming that awesome TV show. But so you're also trained in acting. You're also an actress.
Yeah.
Okay. And what else? Did you study improv or stand up or sketch?
Yeah, I studied a bunch of improv,
Mhm.
and I've done sketch as well.
Mhm.
I worked at UCB for 5 years
Mm.
as a producer for their corporate events.
Mhm.
And so through that gig, I was able to take all the classes for free. So I've
Mhm.
done like
Mhm.
so much improv.
Right.
And yeah, and I got my BA in acting. But
Mm.
even doing like my acting, I was like always funny. Like people would always laugh at it, even in my dramatic like Tennessee Williams scenes, you know? So I'm like, what is that? Why are people laughing at Blanche Dubois right now?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and so then having this straight acting thing, and then having this improv thing, and then finally moving to LA and finding clown, it just felt like a Rubik's cube clicking into place of like, oh yeah, I'm silly. Like
Yeah.
I'm very silly.
Mhm.
And that is one of my superpowers,
It
you
is.
know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so in that
Cosmically
way
decided for you.
yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like I
Mhm.
was sharing with you, I think on set, when someone asked like, "Oh, so do you do clowning?" It was like my heart literally was like, "Yeah, you're a clown. You
Mhm.
are a clown." And I'd never felt like that before about anything, like so sure, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you had a moment of clicking into place that in that moment too. Click, click,
Yeah.
click. So many
Yeah.
people were clowns on that set. That was part of the reason why it was so special, is because, you
Yeah.
know, like there's something about clowns that feel like really profound, more so than just comedians. Um,
Yes.
because you had also observed this. You were like, there's a lot of clown in stand up too,
Mhm.
but like clowns to me just feel like very self-satisfied and self-fulfilled,
Mhm.
like no matter what, no matter, because comedians always need the affirmation of the laughter, they always need that acceptance and approval, whereas clowns, they just seem like they're very okay just clowning around, in their present moment, doing whatever and letting things fly. Like there's more trust, I suppose. Yeah.
I think that trust comes from, yeah, the idea of failure is inevitable.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to play with that
Mm-hmm.
no matter what. And then once you get in tune with what the audience like, that mirror effect, it's like it just starts multiplying infinitely in that
Yeah.
way, as long
Yeah,
as you're
yeah, yeah.
staying in that state of play.
Mm.
Yeah.
Um, I know we have a mutual friend, Mike Rose, right? Uh, and he and I will like hang out and talk, and once in a while he was like, "Oh, like I'm hanging out with Natasha a lot lately, and she's awesome." He mentioned that you have some influence in your work from like Mexican shamanism. Is this true?
Oh,
Or spirituality?
yes, I'm very, very interested in the sacred clown archetype
Mm-hmm.
and just how the clown and the trickster essentially transcends this white French man
Yeah.
ideology.
Okay.
It is the clown is an integral part of many indigenous cultures, like
Yes.
across time and space,
Yeah.
and it was just seen and respected as a part of the social ecosystem to poke holes in whoever held authority
Uh huh.
and be like, why why are they the person that gets to tell me what to do, and like
Uh.
why do they actually matter to anyone?
Uh huh.
For example, like the heyoka and the booger dances, or there's also like there's so many, this is like the most nerdy subject for me. I love just
Yeah.
geeking out on it,
I'm
but
into
yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and like me spiritually too. I really like shamanism, and I really and am connected with like plant medicine in that way, like cacao in
Mm-hmm.
particular. I'm a cacao ceremony facilitator.
Oh, really?
And so
I should talk
yeah,
to you
and like
about that later.
yes. Yes, it's great heart medicine, and it doesn't
Okay.
trip you out or anything. It's
Right, right,
very,
right.
very
It's
grounded.
cacao. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so in that way I
Mm,
see it like holding hands with this clown work. 'Cause
it's
it's like you're
amazing.
opening up
Yeah.
yourself
Uh-huh. You are.
to the audience and
Yeah.
letting them see you fully.
Um, yeah. No, I'm so happy we're talking today. And there's like in my journey too, there's like these moments. It's like, oh, like signpost, signpost, signpost. Like when I was in New York, I was in New York because of the Brooklyn Film Festival, and
Hmm.
my short documentary got accepted there. And I have
Congratulations.
thanks. I have friends in New York, and they came, and one of them is Vong Pak, and he's a street performer. He's a traditional Korean drummer and street
Hmm.
performer, and he used to like roll with like break dancers, like street dancers in the 90s in New York City, and he would be like this fucking Korean guy like playing traditional drums like alongside them. It was
Oh,
like
that's
kind of
amazing.
badass. And so that's his thing, but he's also like, an MFA, and he's he's a teacher. And he mentioned this woman named Sai Shoki, and she's a Korean uh dancer, traditional dancer, but she has one character which is a shaman, and she has the
Hmm.
shaman dance because in Korea there's shamanism connected to Taoism and Buddhism.
Hmm.
And Korean shamanism is also all about performance. Like
Hmm.
they have whole plays that they memorize, like, and they perform. And in that performance, the spirit comes, and then they channel that spirit to the client, the family member is like, oh, like, your dead husband is here and this is what he's saying. And but that performance element is like in there, that's their
Yeah.
and so, but they're in clown, in a way, because they're wearing costumes. There's like a huge fucking ritual. There's like dead animals that they're dangling as sacrifice to the gods and spirits, and there's like food, and there's music. There's drummers and flutes. It's like very intense. But yeah, this dancer, she was like clowning, the shaman, the Korean shaman, for a
Mhm.
New York audience in the 1930s, bro. And I was like,
Yeah.
why didn't I know about this woman, right?
Yeah.
And tomorrow, I'm taking, and this is like a big fear jump for me. I'm taking my first ever clown class tomorrow, actually.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness.
at the Clown
With
Split.
who?
David
At the
Bridal?
clown? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Is he a good one? Is he somebody that you
He's
worked with
yeah,
before?
he's I haven't studied with him before. I've heard great things
Yeah,
though.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Everybody says
awesome.
great things about him. So, yeah, tomorrow it's going to be the Tragic Clown. It's a workshop. Look
That's
at you laughing.
great. Oh my gosh. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, because when we were talking on set, like I kept telling you, like my fear, my trepidation about it was that it could be brutal. Like some clown classes can be brutal, like because they force you to dig in and um. Anyway,
I think
the
the most brutal part of that is the via negativa part.
right, right. That's
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
mentioned.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, I've been trying to get this book out for a year. Like, I wrote it last year, and I've been trying to get it out, and it's like I keep hitting a wall, and there's something tragic and
Mm.
cosmically absurd and funny about that as well. Because I
Mhm.
have a PhD, I have a doctorate that I
Yeah.
got last year, and it's not being put to use in the traditional academic sense in this moment. And in that
Mhm.
regard, I am a fucking failure, and
Mhm.
I want to explore that in a deeper way.
Mhm.
um and the dream I had last night was like vulnerability. Like I was in the bathroom and I kept checking the lock to make sure that it was locked, because there were a lot
Ah,
of people in the
yes.
house. And then the bathroom was glass, like people could see through, and they were walking around, and I was like freaking
Yes.
out. So it's like I want to confront my vulnerability and get over my sense of embarrassment and humiliation around that, so that I could feel strength. Because that was also part of the exercise when I went up on stage with you. I
Yeah.
was like, this is scary and embarrassing, but
Yeah.
let me find comfort here somehow.
Yes, and I think it's never erasing that sense of embarrassment or vulnerability,
Hmm.
right? It's almost chasing it and being strong enough to share it and know you will be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even you playing that Michelle Branch song, which is it's this pop song, right? It's this like
Mhm.
cheesy ass pop song,
Yeah.
and you're like, I unabashedly love this song, and I'm
Too.
gonna play it right now with all of you. Right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everybody's delighting in it with you. The crowd is
Yeah.
delighting in it with you.
Yeah. Yeah, guilty pleasure. So what?
Yeah, where's the
Yeah.
guilt exactly?
Yeah.
It's all
This feels
pleasure.
good. This is fun. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my god, I love that song so much.
It's a good one. It's a really
Yeah.
good one. I heard her, you know how she got her sample tape to the manager? It was such a good
No.
story. So she was like a teenager, she couldn't drive yet, but they were like, you need to get this tape to the manager like right now. Like they're here now and they want this tape. So she got in her father's golf cart, and she drove herself in the golf cart
Oh,
to the manager to get the tape in when she was like
yeah.
16 or something. That's how she got
That's
picked up.
amazing.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, getting in her little clown car and
Yeah,
like, yeah, I mean like please, please. Yeah,
that is a
please pay attention to me.
that is
Yeah.
a clown car. You're right.
Yeah. And then
Oh
packing
god.
herself back up, being like, I did it, and then going home
Driving
so
back.
slowly. That's awesome.
Oh my god, so good. So many layers. Holy shit.
So endearing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Oh, another question I had about your show. You have like a kid accent. Is that intentional? Like you're not like, or is that just coming out? Because like when you're up there, there's some words that you don't pronounce like you don't enunciate like 100% like on it, but it's like I know what she's saying, but it's like there's like a childishness to it like sometimes.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, I
intentional?
think that is tree. That
Oh,
is
got it.
tree.
Got it.
Yeah, I remember that moment you're talking about in particular, and that happened on accident, but it's like whenever those things come up, I just lean into it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. And so then there's times when people come up to me afterwards and are like, oh, it's so interesting to see the world through trees' eyes.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, it's kind of an excuse for me to say, like, this is how I see things, you know? And I think, particularly as a woman, when I go on stage,
Yeah.
um, and I'm like being weird or ugly,
Mhm.
like sometimes people get uncomfortable with that. And so I found
Yeah.
when I'm in the tree costume, it's this visual permission slip for people to understand, oh yeah, she's extremely ridiculous right now. And so when she's looking ugly, like that's on purpose. Or when she's looking stupid, that's on purpose. I'm allowed to laugh at this woman,
Right.
basically.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, isn't it funny that we need this ritual of permissions and allowance in order to fully allow ourselves to be whatever the fuck we
Yeah.
are? Isn't that so
Yeah.
weird and funny?
It is funny because it's part of that unlearning process, you know, and
Right.
connecting back with that inner child. And like you saying, yeah, that I'm tapping into any kid like energy is such a compliment to me. Like, thank you
Yeah.
so much. I
Yeah.
love kids. Like, they are so funny. Do you have any kids like in your life, like nieces or nephews?
I have nieces and
Oh,
nephews. Yeah.
yeah.
And they are pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like a camp counselor. I was a nanny in
Yeah.
college. Like
Yeah.
I just love hanging out with kids. They're
Yeah.
so
They're
much fun to be
they're so
around.
pure and straightforward about whatever their objective is. And
Yeah.
they have zero sense of like, but I shouldn't because of XYZ. It's just they just do it,
They're
right?
present. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why they're exhausting. Like after spending a day with kids, because they're looking at you in your eyes and they're like, okay, so what are you thinking? And if you bullshit them, they know. And
Yeah.
then they don't want to play with you anymore. And you're like, fuck, no, okay. You have to double down and be like, I'm here, please, please.
Please.
Please let me play with you and have fun with you and protect you, you know, from
Yeah,
other people.
yeah.
Please listen to me and understand,
Right.
like, I'm looking out for you. I'm not trying to, you know,
Yeah.
be mean to you right now.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like that there's a godlikeness to children in that regard,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Or even more connected with their light, you know?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I have a friend, she has twin boys, and they're on the spectrum. And, these autistic kids, like, they got their own peculiarities, their own set of fucking rules, which is that whatever expectation there is in terms of status quo,
Yeah.
wow, does it not matter? Like, wow, does it
Yeah.
not apply? Wow, like in such an extreme radical way. And I'm looking at her
Yeah.
kids and I'm like, they're the most punk rock people ever.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
embody punk rockness. Like we gotta
Yeah.
we gotta reckon with that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. There's a lot to learn from children. Do you know that you probably know this book? Do you know that book, Women Who Run with the Wolves?
Oh, I love that book. Yeah, anytime it took me forever to get through it, but
Me too.
anytime like I opened the next one, I'd be like, this is a perfect story for where I'm at right now. Yeah.
I had that exact same experience. So yesterday, I finished the book yesterday. It took me almost
Oh
a
my
year.
gosh.
It took me almost a year.
Yeah.
And then I made a video about like a me reviewing the book, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what I said. I was like, each chapter I read felt like I was in terms of timing, I needed to read that chapter today,
Yeah.
now, at
Yeah.
this point in my life. And that's why it took me a year to read it, because
Yeah.
there were days when I just couldn't read it. I would pick it up and I want to, but I was like, it's not coming in. And
Yeah.
the last two chapters were especially hard. And the afterward, the one where she says stories as medicine, that
Uh
chapter I had to read it yesterday. Like yesterday was
Yeah.
the time for me to read it because that's when it was like
Mhm.
settling in because of all the
Yeah.
shit that I went through the last few days. And I was like, this book is one of those books, like Artist's Way,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. But that can be seen as a guilty pleasure in that way because it's
Mm,
so woo woo,
it
and it's
is.
so like, and I love it. I
Me
eat it
too.
up.
I'm
It
so into it,
speaks to
dude.
all my parts. Yeah. All my smart parts too. All my really
Exactly.
sensitive parts. Yeah.
Because it's a
It's,
spirituality, it's a spiritual book, and it's
yeah.
we're nurturing our spirit there, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
we go to school, we learn shit, we have computers and blah blah blah, but then when it comes to spirituality, it's like anything really goes. Whatever nurtures it, whatever feeds it, whatever helps us connect more deeply to it, why
Yes.
not? I feel like anything goes, really,
Yes. I I totally agree with you. I
including
think
these
people get
woohoo books.
yeah, people get scared of the artist way, or at least there's been a couple people in my life who I'm like, I'm doing the artist way, and they're like, oh, that's the God book, and I'm like,
Oh, wow.
no,
Interesting.
but yes, I guess, but no,
Interesting.
but
Yeah, yeah,
also,
yeah.
God has this like stigma around it, where
It
it's like
does.
it doesn't have to be, oppression. Like God is not synonymous with oppression.
Exactly. Exactly. That's part of the unlearning that you mentioned. Like,
Yeah.
I was raised uh by born again Protestants, like the most
Oh,
extreme, right? But
yeah.
my family lineage is Buddhist on both sides,
Mm,
and it was like a break from that. It's like Protestant in America as immigrants, you know? It was
yeah.
fucking extreme. I have a lot of trauma around Korean American churches and my religion, and God and Christ was a huge fucking disaster for me. But through the unlearning, it was like you gotta become friends with God in a way,
Yeah.
like, and realize that they're never after you. They never judge you. They never, like,
Yeah.
it's only like God is love, source is love, higher being is love. Like
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's that's really all it is. And so we got to
God is
undo
the
the
human word for that force,
exactly,
God, the
exactly.
word God doesn't actually mean anything.
No,
That's just the petty amalgamation that we've put together and try to call it.
precisely, precisely,
Yeah.
precisely. And then it's tied to trauma for a lot of people because
Yeah.
human beings, as we say, human beings hurt human beings, and human beings fuck shit up and then create these disasters, and they're all based out of fear. But it's like
Yeah.
once we, as you say, we confront that fear, right? Once we confront the messiness, come to peace with it, that's us coming to peace with inner God and getting
Yeah.
closer to inner God and realizing inner God was never ever judging us or punishing us or after us. It's all paranoia.
Yeah.
It's only love, and just come back to that love, right? Like I
Yeah.
loved it when you were saying in that acting exercise, like looking at another person and saying that person's me. That's tapping into your God because that's
Yeah.
projection of love, right?
Yeah.
So nice.
Yeah, it is nice. It is nice. And realizing, like, yeah, when we are getting annoyed with other people, it's like, oh, like, but you could also choose to have patience with them and compassion because there's other people that are going to look at you that same way, or there's other moments when you're going to be the conduit for that type of energy as well.
Right. And wouldn't you want patience from the other person in that moment,
Yeah.
right? Um
Yeah.
yeah, compassion and understanding is always, as you say, it's better because it brings more peace to the self, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
yeah.
peaceful.
It's just
It's just,
chill. Let's just go
and
chill.
we are this body, like, and this body's kind of gross and kind of beautiful too. Like, we're so human. We're
Yeah.
so painfully human.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I think that also goes back to, like, yeah, what's the point of saying I'm not a tree? It's like, because I'm so human. I'm
Yeah.
so imperfect. I'm so just this. Ugh, and I can't get away from it. And that's
You
great.
you allowing yourself to boldly be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate challenge, really, to boldly be you. It's the ultimate
Yeah.
challenge. Oh,
Yeah.
I love that. I love your place so much.
Thank you so much.
I wanna.
Yeah.
I do this in all of my podcast episodes. I just wrap by asking a few questions based on a Korean drama. So I just ask you
Oh, cool.
what would you do if you were this person in this scenario? So this is basically improv, okay? So
Okay.
the show I'm going to talk about is called Matrimonial Chaos. It came out in 2018. It's based on a Japanese drama, and it was adapted into a Korean drama in the year 2018. Stars some big names like Tunape. You know, she worked with the Wachowskis a bunch of times, and she's amazing. So,
Oh,
okay,
cool.
let's say you're a man, a 36-year-old man named Suk Mu, and you work for like a security system, like like those house security systems, or like in a business a security alarm goes off and you just go show up and you make sure that it's not a false alarm, and if it is an actual alarm you call the police. So that's your job, okay?
Mm-hmm.
um
Mm-hmm.
you're married to a woman named Hiru, and she is also in her mid 30s, but she doesn't work. She's a
Mm-hmm.
homebody. She's a very
Mm-hmm.
messy lady. She's a slob, okay? Meanwhile,
Mm-hmm.
you are like OCD neat freak, okay?
Mm-hmm.
One morning, you see her on the couch brushing her teeth, and the toothpaste drool is falling onto the floor. It's driving
Mm-hmm.
you insane.
Mm-hmm.
But you're this OCD neat freak. What do you do?
I and I'm not about to go to work or anything. I just see
You're
her.
about to go to
What?
work, but she's doing this. Like you're just you're noticing it. You're seeing it. It's happening. Toothpaste drool. Just she's brushing her
What's his
teeth on
name
the
again?
couch. Sakmu. Yeah.
I would go, Hiru, and take the toothbrush out of her mouth. And
Uh-huh.
then I don't know why, but I would start brushing my own teeth with it. And as I'm doing that, I would scoop up the little part that's on the ground and put it on my face. And then I would leave and go to work with the brush.
Yeah, in your mouth.
In my mouth,
You brush
brushing
it
it.
the whole day.
Making eye contact with her and slamming the door, still brushing. Yeah.
That's amazing. That is probably the most amazing answer I've gotten so far with these flashcard questions. Okay, great. All right, awesome. I'm
Okay.
loving this. Okay, next question. You're the same guy. You're the same guy. You're the same Sungmu, okay? You run
Yeah.
into a woman named Yu Young. She's
Mm-hmm.
your college ex-girlfriend. The two of you used to briefly live together at one point, okay? So this was like a deep, significant relationship for you, all right?
Whoa.
You see
Yeah.
her, you're both in your mid 30s. She looks very beautiful, very elegant, all right? And you're catching up. You guys talk catch up. She
This
tells you,
happened to me this morning though with Hiru.
no, it's not the same day. It's a different day.
Okay. Different day. Different
Yeah,
day.
but
Okay.
she's in your neighborhood. Like she has this little shop. It's in the same neighborhood. She lives, not too far from you. She tells you that
Mm-hmm.
she's married, and
Mm-hmm.
you know the man she's married to. You don't know him personally, but it's a man that you see all the time in your neighborhood, and you always see him philandering with multiple women. He's always going home with other bitches all the time. So you know this fact. What do you do?
Yeah. And we're just chatting,
You're just chatting, just catching up.
just catching up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a man of honor.
Mm.
What I would do,
Yeah.
hopefully this is around the time I see him walking around,
Uh-huh.
say, would you like to go on a walk with me?
Okay.
And we would make our rounds, almost hunting for this man
Okay.
to see him going home with another bitch,
Oh. Yeah. To show her.
to show her.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, it would have to be that. It would have to be self-discovery. And so then if we didn't find him on the walk, I would just bow to her as I dropped her off. And then just walk away slowly. Staying
Backwards.
bowed.
Yeah.
Backwards.
All the way home.
All the way home.
In the bowed position.
Yeah, in the bowed
all
position.
the way home backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another perfect answer. Okay. Great. All right. This is amazing. All right. Let's say now you're Hiru. Okay? You're that messy slob lady.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
at home secretly for yourself, all right, you've been making these illustrations for a long time. Little doodles,
Mm.
all right? They're very
Mhm.
important to you. You want to get it right. But your
Mhm.
husband comes home and he thinks your doodles are just garbage all over the table. And he's like telling you to tidy up, like yelling at you. What do you do?
He's yelling at me with my
Yeah, he's
beautiful
like, "Why are you
drawings
so
on the table.
messy?" And blah.
Yeah.
No, yeah. You also spilled some
Uh,
water. That's also what sets him off. He spilled some water, and he's just like, he's just had it. He's just set him off. He's like, "What's with
on
all
the
this?"
table with my own beautiful
Yeah,
drawings.
he's like, "What's with all these drawings? Like, why is it so messy? Like, you're always messy. That's why you're spilling shit." Da 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 da. He's like going off.
Why is it so messy? I would stand up from the table. I'd say, I'm an artist. And I would throw my drawings up in the air. And yeah, I would start to dance. And I would try to grab his hands and dance with him and remember. And I would whisper in his ear, remember why we fell in love. And then keep dancing.
Oh my god! Oh my god! These characters are amazing. I'm loving every one of them. Wow. Wow, you should have been in the show. Okay, great. Awesome. All right. You're Sungmu again, okay?
Okay,
Very
okay,
very
okay.
casually cuz you just had it. You just had it. You know, you're so different. You and your wife are so different. You just had it, so you very
Yeah.
casually mentioned to her divorce. Just mentioned divorce. You just mentioned it. And she
Yeah.
simply very, calmly agreed to it, okay? But the two of you
Mm.
continue to live together while you're sorting things out, like living situation wise. But after you
Mm-hmm.
sign the divorce papers, suddenly, for some reason, the two of you are getting along better than ever before.
Of course. Of
And you
course.
realize that you actually still have very deep feelings for her. But you see your wife dating a much younger and handsome and sexy musician friend of yours. What do you do?
Mm. Mm. I just see it. I like see them on a date
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm like walking by or something and I see this.
Just and he's also like one day he's actually at your house. Like she spilled something on his shirt, so he started taking a shower and she was giving him some new clothes, and that's when he walked in. And she says
Whoa.
there's no funny business, and you believe her. But he's actually somebody this kid. Actually, this guy, you know him.
Yeah.
You pretend like you don't know him for the sake of your wife, but this guy, when you were younger and you were a musician, he actually stole one of your songs and became very famous with that song.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
There's some drama there, yeah.
That is drama. But also I'm a man of honor.
It's true.
And so I come home,
Mhm.
he's showering, there's no
Yeah.
funny business.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Again, I put my jacket back on. I
Uh-huh.
put my hat.
Yeah.
I bow backwards. I close the door. And I go on a very manly walk around the nearest body of water. And I just cry to myself in the night. And for about 2 hours.
But you're bowing and you're walking
But I'm
backwards.
bowing and I'm walking backwards around water.
How
And
did
then
you
when I
know?
go home.
Wait, how did you know that in this show there is a body of water near them? This
Really?
is
I
true.
didn't. I did not know.
There's a creek and there's a little bridge and they always
Really?
meet at that bridge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like very much a part of their neighborhood. That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so
No.
you walk by that thing. Holy shit, for two
Yeah.
hours and you cry it out.
Yeah. Cry
Amazing.
and bow. Mm. Yeah.
When in doubt, cry and bow. Always.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Good. I like that. Okay. Now, let's say you're that lady, Yu Young, with the man who's philandering all over town. All right,
Yeah.
you're a very quiet woman. You're very introverted. You're very
Mm,
sophisticated, elegant,
mm,
but not
mm.
arrogant. You're pretty humble. You're chill. Okay, you used to date that Sungmu guy. Now you're married to this Chang Hyun guy who is cheating on you all the time.
And I know it?
You know that your husband sleeps with other
Oh
women,
my
but
gosh.
you pretend to not care because it's very important to you that you don't come off as a jealous, controlling, angry woman. You suppress that all the way. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
One day, two women show up at your shop and they pretend to be customers, but you realize they are actually his girlfriends. what do you do?
Interesting. So I'm ringing them up.
Yeah, you're showing
And
them like the clothes that you have in your shop, and you're tending to the customers. Yeah.
yes, I. Oh my gosh, there's so many. So my body is hot. I'm starting to sweat from my armpits. You know when the
Yeah.
adrenaline it goes like and it
Oh
like
yeah.
sprays out your sweat
Uh-huh.
from you? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what happens. And I'm showing them it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I call for my husband to come
Oh.
in here
Oh,
to
intense.
show it
Okay.
with them.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And say, "Oh, what would you think that they would look good in?" And he chooses the most beautiful gowns. I know he chooses the most beautiful gowns. And I go, "He's right." And I give them a discount of 75%. And I give it to them and I say, "I hope you enjoy this."
Fuck.
And that's it. And
That
then I
is
slam the cashier thing shut. And I just stand there very still for the rest of the day.
the whole
And don't
day.
say anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and don't say
Till the
anything to
sun
my
goes
husband.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I just like pull down the thing that's like, "We'll be back." And I just stand there at the cash register.
Not moving.
Not moving.
Not
Just very
speaking.
still. Yeah, and he would come in and check on me. "Do you want something to eat?" And I'd say no. And just stand there. Mm-hmm.
Holy shit, that is the most
Mm-hmm.
radical thing I've ever heard in my life. That's amazing. Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah.
The world has so much to learn from you. Okay.
Oh, thanks.
No,
But
these are great answers. Okay, we just have a couple more and then we'll wrap, okay? You're doing great. All right.
thank you.
You're you're Yu Young again, the same lady, okay?
Uh-huh.
You thought you were married, right, to this man that is cheating on you, but you just happen to you love him, all right? What are you going to do? You love this fucking cheater. Okay.
Yeah.
Turns out he never filed your marriage registration, like the papers. He never filed that to city hall. So technically, you're not even husband and wife. And
Wow.
for the last 3 years, you guys were living together and you thought you were husband and wife. What do you do?
Yeah. We're not even husband and wife. He's been cheating on me.
Yeah.
I just gave them dresses for 75% off.
75 off.
Damn. Okay. I pack my bags
Yeah.
very quietly in the morning.
Okay.
Do we have a dog? I'll bring.
No, you don't actually.
We don't have a dog.
No.
I write a note
Uh-huh.
and I write, "It's been real." And leave it on the pillow next to him. And I catch the next train out of town and start my life as a fisherman. And yeah, that's it. Move to a
Wow.
fishing village. Yeah.
You're so you're so connected. This woman, this character, she's actually from an island.
Oh,
So her home is a fishing town.
yeah. Cool.
Fucking, you know it, you're into it. Okay, got it.
That's
Amazing.
funny.
Amazing. Okay. All right, let's say now you're the husband that was cheating. You're Chang Hyun. You're the guy that was cheating on your poor wife, girlfriend lady, okay?
Yeah.
You come home one day, your wife is pissed. She's screaming at you. She's saying she knows
Mm,
that you've been cheating on her. She's been pretending to be cool about everything. She's been pretending like she's okay, but she's not. She's actually a very jealous, very rageful woman, and she's angry and she's disgusted by you, and she tells you to get the hell out, okay?
yeah.
She says, she doesn't want to be with you anymore, all right?
Yeah.
You leave. You leave to respect her wishes, but you now know that more than anything in the world, all you want is your wife again and nobody else. Okay? You
Yeah.
make this vow to yourself. You're self-determined to be faithful to your wife and make her happy, but she won't have you back. You also learn that she is now pregnant with your baby. What do you do?
Oh no. Oh shit. What a mess. Oh, what are we gonna do? Oh. Oh god. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Oh, and her family's in the fishing village, huh?
Yep.
We can't even reach out to them.
No, they're on an island. Yeah.
No. You know, I would go to the market every day in the morning and make a beautiful basket of the finest things from the market.
Okay.
And just leave it at her doorstep every day.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And hopefully, yeah, and on the baby's birthday, and not even expecting to be in her life again, just leaving a basket every day.
Wow.
And I would put a $5 bill in the mailbox on Sundays, just for extra.
Yeah.
And I would become celibate. No longer. Yeah, a monk. Am I a monk or a man? I would become a monk. And yeah, and have a small apartment with one of those little bachelor stoves, you know, where you just, it's like a hot pad.
Yeah.
And I would just spend the rest of my days like that and going to work.
Holy shit.
Kind
like
of bleak.
It's very Catholic. I like
it. Yeah. That's what happened. I don't know.
Yeah. Gotta atone.
Atone. Yeah. Through abundance of the market gift every morning.
For her, but not for you.
Yes. Yes.
Fascinating.
Dedicate my life to that.
I love that. That's it. Those are the flashcard questions. Thank you. This was amazing. Amazing answers.